Number 5. You know that feeling when you start talking to someone and they seem to really like you? Like, really, really like you? And it's really nice, especially when you feel the same way about them, but then you start to think, what did I do to deserve this? I mean, sure, I impress myself all the time, but at least I know I'm being delusional. This is the number 1 red flag I always fall for, and probably will continue to do so. Whenever she shows exceeding amounts of affection or praise right at the beginning, this is usually a sign of something called love bombing. After making you feel like you're on top of the world and boosting your ego to no end, this behavior is slowly but surely withdrawn. And while sometimes I think it is intentionally manipulative, I think there are many other cases where it just happens as a result of complacency. Like when you're no longer really pursuing someone or chasing them to be in a relationship, then you start to relax a little bit, and that might change the expectation that the other person has had. I remember talking to 2 separate girls at separate points in my life, one in high school, one in my early 20s, where in both instances, they broached the subject very early on, might I add, of having kids, and then in the very same breath, expressed uncertainty at the idea of our relationship even continuing long term. Obviously, I had learned my lesson by the second occasion, kind of. But it just struck me as so odd of a topic to bring up so quickly and then just switch on. This is very important to acknowledge that all of these things I'm talking about are applicable to men as much as women. Even if my experience is just with dating women, I've had plenty of female friends who have expressed literally the exact same sentiment about guys that they've gone out with. So the idea that all women do this or all men are like that is just complete nonsense in my experience. Number 4, she deals in absolutes. No, I am not talking about a female version of Anakin Skywalker. Though that might be kind of... This one kind of covers a broad range, but some examples of this are she regularly tears down other women, she accuses all of her exes of being crazy, and generally there's just no room for nuance in a discussion. Everything is very right and wrong, black and white, and there's no chance anyone's going to change their mind about anything. You can sometimes mistake this for being a strong personality or someone who's very convicted in what they believe, but it is never a great idea for anyone to be so set in their beliefs that they just won't change them ever. This kind of goes back to number 5. If she just validates every single thing you do and say, because, you know, she's into you at this point in time, even when you know that you're in the wrong, that is not a good sign. It doesn't lead to any sort of mutual growth or accountability. It's like having a friend who basically encourages you to do the wrong thing all the time, no matter what. Or not even the wrong thing, just whatever you think you should do. Dude, talking about this whole thing, there was a point in time where my friends and I had a disagreement about something, and the girl who was privy to, like, she witnessed this happen, messaged me saying that they literally deserve to be castrated for disagreeing with me. Looking back, that was kind of hot. Number 3, a caregiver/chaperone dynamic starts to develop. If you are a man or woman who is genuinely trying to develop and find the best version of themselves, whatever self-help guru calls it nowadays, you're more likely to run into this. I've been in more than one relationship where the crux of our conversations would consist of talking about some friend or work drama, and then me, mistakenly, trying to offer the advice and try to solve the problem for my significant other. And then as soon as I start dealing with something and I go to them asking for help, it's like, oh, what, you don't have it figured out? First things first, one thing I had to learn the hard way is not every time someone tells me something that's going wrong in their life, do they actually want my opinion. They just want to be able to tell me. So you can kind of take that pressure off of yourself to try to solve problems. At first, it's nice to feel like, oh, okay, you know, she needs me. And then you realize that it's not really a relationship. It's a weird pseudo-therapist type situation that's unfolding here. The thing we want to try to avoid here is resentment. Because while it may feel amazing to be selfless and altruistic and, oh, I'm going to help them and expect nothing in return, the reality is you are expecting something in return. It's a relationship. It's meant to be mutual. It takes two to tango. So if you go out on the dance floor and move your body and start sweating and you're the only one out there, not really a tango. Number 2, you don't find him attractive. Alex, you're a real freaking genius. You know that? Obviously, I'm not going to date someone I'm not attracted to. You've heard the cliche of, it's not about what's on the outside, but what's on the inside. There was one occasion where I took that to heart. I met someone who was genuinely interested in me. It's hard to describe how it's different from love bombing, but you have a sense of unease when someone shows you a ton of affection. This felt like attempts at rapport, if that makes sense. And I liked her. Like, I thought she was cute, but wasn't excited. But the interest she had in me was so different from that of all the other girls I had gone out with that I was kind of in this weird spot. A very obvious part of me was just like, not that interested. But then the rest of me, the thinking part of me said, oh, well, how could you be so shallow? This person is clearly interested in you, unlike the other people you've gone out with. And they're exerting all this effort, and you're not giving them a chance. And you're never going to meet anyone if you're just this much of a douchebag all the time. His whole ordeal was the opposite of that meme, I can change him. It was, I can change me. Spoiler alert, that didn't happen. That relationship taught me 2 huge takeaways. First off, it was the longest relationship I've been in to this day. That wasn't one of the takeaways, but just a side note. So the first thing is I realized I am not an unlovable person. There's this slippery slope where when you're the common denominator of a lot of bad relationships, it's worth critiquing yourself and going, okay, well, what are you doing wrong? Who are you attracting and how are you treating them? But it was after this experience I realized that the prior ones were anomalous, unlucky, I don't know. I mean, still the good one was in the minority compared to the bad ones, but it was what it was. The second thing I took away is it is important to trust that hesitation that you feel deep down inside. Because no matter how great things were, how many dates we went on, how many gifts we gave each other, how many quality memories we created, there was always that feeling that this wasn't completely right in the back of my head. And you don't want to waste people's time, right? I think a hard lesson, an important lesson is the longer you wait, the harder it is to make the right decision. And so I waited a little bit of time, not as much as, people who've been 5, 10, 15 years in and then realize that they need to change things. But now I don't mess around with that. If something is not right, I'm just not going to continue it. Just clean break early. It's going to be disappointing, but disappointing is way better than heartbreaking. Number 1, they need a relationship with you or with anyone. I pledged to myself at a younger age that I will sooner go to my grave alone than be with someone simply for the sake of not being lonely, even if it's not the right person. I think that having experiences by yourself is far preferable to having them with someone who is just driving you batty the entire time. It's a very sort of default mindset to think, oh, I have to be with someone. I mean, this could be a whole other philosophical video, but every society, civilization has its means by which to get people to believe that this is the correct course that they need to take on life, or this is the right thing that you have to do. And for us, it's usually getting married and having kids. But the reality is, you don't have to do any of that. Like, you can have just as fulfilling a life without those things. In fact, I think there are many people who have more fulfilling lives as a result of avoiding some unpleasant relationships that they could have otherwise gone into because they felt pressured to do so. I personally love being in love with someone, sharing those experiences, intimacy, etc. It's one of the best ways to experience life. And it's one of the best feelings to have reciprocated back to you. But I've started to conceptualize dating as a beautiful option of existence rather than a requirement to have at all costs. It allows me the grace to focus on fully fleshing out my own capabilities so that I can be the best partner possible to the person that I ultimately meet. And I can more fully enjoy how interesting they are for all of their traits and capabilities. I think meeting someone in an interesting circumstance, like on a film set or out in the field, lends itself to a more meaningful interaction or relationship than if I'm trying to chase or pursue, because now we're going down the slippery slope of, I need to do this because I have to meet a requirement. I need to impress others. And if we're trying to impress others, then we're sort of defeating the purpose here. Don't brush things off. I've willfully disregarded red flags before because I wanted to be with someone. I didn't want to be alone. And, I was a little... Anyways, but every single time, no matter how long the relationship was, those things that I saw in the beginning as potential issues were ultimately the reason we parted ways, whether it was on her part or mine. I know there are way more than these 5, so I'd love to read some of yours if you share them in the comments. Bonus tip number 3.5. If you meet a guy who is a Lady Gaga fan like me, it's not going to work